is that we have focused, our number one focus is the user focus. Our number one criteria that we focus on is basically the user satisfaction. Our background work starts about 3 to 4 months before the inquiry comes in. Share with you that Tata Steel, which is a very innovation friendly company, they have approved our line blind as an authorized way of blanking anywhere in Tata Steel. Now the capex which is coming up in steel is humongous. Performance comes in about 15-18 months, and then you start getting evaluated for the larger tenders.
Okay. Hi everyone, today we are with Chemtech Industrial Valves. Joining us is Mr. Harsh Badkur. Hi Harsh.
Hello. Hi.
Thanks for having me here, and
Thanks
for the setup also.
Thank you for coming down.
So what do you do? Do you do all these things? It looks pretty complex.
So first, Shriram, thanks for visiting us and taking time out to meet with us. So basically, Chemtech Industrial Valves Ltd, we are into all types of customized and conventional industrial valves for the steel sector, power sector, fertilizer sector. So we are basically to the capital goods larger subsector.
Okay.
And the company was formed in 1997.
Okay.
From the second generation.
Okay.
So my father, Mr. Pradeep Badkur, and we have a technical partner, Mr. C.D. Ignatius. They started this company together in 1997.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were initially from the plastics molding business. We still have that business in
prior
Jalgaon.
to 1997.
Yeah. We started that in 1986.
Okay.
We still make the Marico Savola jars.
Okay.
We still do that in Jalgaon. In 97, actually, my father was thinking about diversifying, and then through common contacts, he met Mr. Ignatius, who had been in the valves business for about 8-10 years prior to that. And we looked around, and it turned out that this is a good industry to be in. It was a growing industry. So that's how then they have started, basically.
It's a bit weird because valves is very specific, meaning I've seen capital goods industry, but valves is something new. I'm seeing specifically valves, but kudos to you.
Correct. So as I said, it's part of the capital goods ecosystem basically. And what happens is that valves, even though it represents about 1.5 to 2% of the capex for any plant, let's say any steel plant, any power plant, any refinery, etc. coming, so it's about 1.5 to 2 to 3% of the overall capex. But what happens, even in spite of that, the criticality is quite high because let's say if somebody is setting up a 1,000 crore chemical plant, the valves may represent only about 10 crore of a contribution. But for that 10 crore, your entire 1,000 crore plant can get stuck. So it's a very critical component in the overall piece of things.
Absolutely. So this valves, in a very simple terms, it's something that controls or lets air, fluids, gas, or any substance flow through. Let's say I'm running a chemical plant. I've got like 10 chemicals that's coming together, and I want each in some proportion. So the valves let the mixture be controlled. Right?
Absolutely. So in a sense, broadly speaking, as a layman, there are a few variations for which valves are being applied. So one is to isolate. So firstly, wherever there is a pipeline anywhere in the world, there will be two things that go with it. One will be the pump, which will move the fluid. The fluid could be liquids, gases, chemicals, whatever. And there will be a valve to control the flow of that fluid. So either to stop it completely, isolate, or it could be you to control the pressure or to control the temperature, regulate as per the process requirement.
Okay.
So in a sense, that's what a valve is doing basically.
There are large oil pipelines that are being built underground and on the top as we speak, connecting maybe India to Nepal, India to in between states as well.
Absolutely.
So for this, every oil pipeline, there will be valves, right, to stop and to resume the oil flow?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So that's, in a sense, broadly speaking, that's the function of a valve. Either to isolate the fluid or to control the fluid.
Got it.
Or let's say you have a diversification area, a place where things are being diversified. So you use valves to even divert the flow of the valves. So that's, in a sense, what valves are doing.
I was reading the other day, there was a company in Texas, Black Hole is his name. It built a valve which is 100 feet in height. And maybe 50 or 60 metric ton was the weight of it. What I'm seeing here is you got a 35 metric ton as well. But then I hear there are even smaller ones that just measure a couple of centimeters. So how it's huge disparity between the sizes.
So Shriram, just to give you an idea, so valves are so that is the size range and the diameter range in the industry. It's called by diameter. The by pipe diameter is how the valves are defined. It's quite elastic. So what we do is right from half an inch up to 4,000 mm. So that's 4 meters in dia. So as you can see, we have the 2700 mm valve which we supplied. That is about 41 feet length in height and 18 feet in height. But the smallest valve may come in the palm of our hand. So it's quite elastic, even commercially speaking. So the smallest valve is about, let's say, 1,000 rupees. The most expensive valve that we build out is about 1.75 crore, like for a single valve.
Oh.
So it's quite elastic, but the thing is that it's all customized. The larger the valve gets, it's a most customized requirement.
Makes sense.
And the smaller valves, like you're talking the few centimeter, etc. Those, like for example, we're sitting in a commercial building right now. So in our bathrooms, we have the plumbing line. So they are the brass valves, as you may have seen in so many of the commercial buildings. So that is also a type of a valve, basically. So the application is quite wide. So is the dimension and the size range. It's quite wide, but it's as per the application.
Got it. Now tell me, explain your value chain. Value chain meaning what raw materials do you take in your factory flow, and on the factory flow, what exactly happens? Because what I understand, some companies, they're into molding. Let's say a valve, 15 pieces makes a valve. Then you need to create molding to create those 15 pieces that then goes into building a valve. Then tell me, who do you supply these valves to? Which industry, if you can?
Sure. So valves, in a sense, basically there are three types of valves. One is your cast valves, which is made using the moldings, like you said. So let's say some of the smaller valves and even some of the larger size valves in high pressure, what happens there is that the valves are made out of casting. So we have the patterns. Our design team makes the designs. We get the patterns made and we send it to the foundry. There are foundries. We have foundries in Tamil Nadu. We have foundries in Gujarat where we source our castings from. They send the moldings to us, basically. Once we get the casting, we are doing the machining and the further assembly process in-house. In a sense, a valve is basically a collection of 15 to 20 different items. The final assembly. It's about 15 to 20 different items. So it's an assembled product. Now, for some very high temperature and high pressure applications, for example, steam lines in the power plants, where the casting may not be able to take the pressure, there we are using forgings. So there the valves are made out of forgings. So we buy the forgings from the different forging shops, which are there in North India, even in South India. There are a lot of forging shops. We buy the forgings from there, and that's how the valves are being made. The third application where we have a larger proportion is basically fabricated valves, which is a completely customized kind of requirement, especially the larger diameter valves which we're doing. It becomes more cost effective to go in fabrication. So there we are using the basic raw material for us is the steel plates, bars, etc. The cutting and everything is happening in our CNC cutting machines, and that's how the valves are made as per our design.
So it's like fabrication. Casting and forging means you take something, let's say this palm, you pour that hot molten liquid into this, and it takes this shape of this palm.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that can be done for small items, because big items you can't have such a big mold, right?
Correct.
And for fabrication, it's like you get a large piece of steel and you make cuttings, and it becomes something like this.
The final product. The final product. Castings also, you can go for the larger sizes also. So we have made some. So the casting, the biggest pieces that we get, about 6 to 7 tons castings also we can get. But what happens is sometimes when, let's say, the pressure is not very high or very, very high diameter valves you have, where casting may not be the most cost efficient way to go.
Makes sense.
So that means you go for a fabrication. Also what happens is these valves, the larger diameter valves are mostly custom made. So there, if you go to amortize the entire pattern cost for the one particular order, it may not be cost effective for the customer.
Makes sense.
So that's when you decide to go for a fabricated type of valve.
It takes a lot of time as well, right?
Absolutely. If you're going, let's say, with the time difference to manufacture a valve between, let's say, a casted valve and a fabricated valve of a large diameter, you'll save about 2 months easily if you're going for the fabrication type.
So basically, if that valve has several applications, the same valve, then you can do molding. Because you can use the same mold to make like thousands of those.
Absolutely. In a smaller sizes.
Fabrication is like unique requirement, large requirement, then fabrication, that's what you opt
for. Tailor-made, fabricated is the best. Subject to your meeting your technical specifications.
Okay. Makes sense.
Coming to selling, so we sell basically to all large industrial units. So we have all blue chip clients like JSW, Tata Steel, Steel Authority of India, BHEL, NTPC, HPCL. Even today about 80% we're doing steel sector, but also branching out into other sectors also. So even across the steel sector, we are working about 35 steel plants in India, which includes all the 6 integrated major steel plants, and there are about 20-25 mini steel plants in India who we are also working with. We are also exporting to Russian steel sector. And so what happens there eventually is that about even in the steel plants or any industrial capex scenario, about 70 to 80% of the business is towards new capex. So wherever a new plant is coming up, they will give the contract to some EPC contractor who will buy these valves from us, or they may also buy the valves by themselves and give it to the EPC contractor to do the erection of the valve. company to company. For example, ArcelorMittal is one of our customers. So they give the entire thing to, let's say, to an L&T. So L&T buy the valves from us and erect the interplant for AMNS. But a Tata Steel or a JSW, what they do generally is that they buy the valves themselves and then they give it to the EPC contractor to do the erection. So each company to its own. And once the plant is set up, so these valves have a life of about 3 years to 10 years, anywhere between 3 years to 10 years, depending on the application where it was used. And so after the plant is handed over to the end customer, let's say Steel Authority India or JSW, every 3 years, 5 years, they'll have the replacement. So that business comes directly from the company.
Okay. Your manufacturing base is in Mumbai.
Yes.
Which is like the northmost supply that you have ever made? Northmost. Which one is it?
In the Indian context, so we had supplied once to Agartala. Agartala is basically, it's on Bangladesh. So you go through the chicken's neck and then you reach the extreme end and you can't even cross through Bangladesh basically. So we had done an LPG bottling plant over there. LPG bottling plant. So IOCL had set up about 18-20 LPG bottling plants in India. This is just prior to COVID. And we were approved with PDIL, which is the consultant who looks into all these LPG bottling plants. Because a lot of these private LPG bottling plants had come up recently. So we had supplied some valves over there. So that was a geographical distance wise.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you transport this huge fittings from let's say Mumbai to all the way to the north?
Correct. So these larger valves are all going by road. Even the smaller valves mostly by road, but wherever specifically there is any urgency requirement, sometimes we are sending through train also. We are using rail freight also, but most probably we are sending through road.
Previously you mentioned that Larsen and Toubro, L&T. So L&T has L&T Valve is a company. Kirloskar Brothers is a company. Kirloskar Brothers Valve is a company. So these large players are there.
Yes.
So what differentiates you from these large players?
So that's a great question. So actually, these are our direct competitors also. So L&T Valves, Kirloskar, we directly compete with them. So Shreya, what happens is, given our scale and given our size, what we have focused on basically since last 15-20 years is that we have focused, our number one focus is the user focus. Our number one criteria that we focus on is basically the user satisfaction. So what happens there is, so we don't wait when the tender will come and we will directly go. That's one way of doing it. What we do is, for all of these products, our background work starts about 3 to 4 months before the inquiry comes into play. Because we are spending maximum time with the user, the end user. Because in any plant, in any company, one is a commercial department and one is a technical department. We are always spending time with the user to understand what is his pain point. We are with him right from the PR stage itself to get the technical specifications. We are there from that stage itself. What happens there is that we get a lot of edge because we are seen as a technical competent player who is helping the user. What happens with these bigger companies like the L&T, Kirloskar and all, they are not able to give that much due to the scale. They're not able to give that much user focus. And the flexibility which we can offer, that gives us an edge basically. And we have seen in many of our customers, by doing this, we've made good savings for the end customer also, which has resulted in savings for us as well as the end customer. I've got enough examples of that type. So that our user focus is what sets us out actually.
You mean like if you go directly to the technical team, are you the one kind of making the tender also? Like helping them decide what to ask for?
Absolutely. So many times what happens in these customized valves, for example. So customized valves, many times these products require education to the customer also. Because there are new features, because they know how to run a steel plant or they know how to run a chemical plant. They're not the valve experts. We are the valve experts. We can decide to them as per their application. We do the application engineering for them. And the thing is, it may seem a very natural thing to do, but there are not that many valve companies who actually do that. There are 50 valve companies who will be sitting once the tender is coming and then they're getting into the play. We are getting into the picture 6 months before the background. So that really helps us, because what happens ultimately, see, like I shared initially, the valve is only 1% or 2% of the overall capex. But it is such a critical component that if your valve fails, your entire production will be shut down.
Makes sense.
So you're not going to take a risk by going for a valve which you are not confident on, for a product which you're not confident on, because it's a very critical component in the overall scheme of things. So to get that kind of edge and to make that kind of inroads, this strategy really helps for us.
Not even just disruption, right? If something leaks, leads to a lot of death, tragedy, accidents.
Absolutely. Because on one hand, you may have certain applications like water which are not hazardous, but the applications which we are dealing with particularly are like blast furnace gas, coke oven gas, LD gas. These are highly toxic and hazardous applications. There have been fatalities in the industry where people have not taken care.
Okay.
So we are very careful on the fact that our quality assurance and our quality planning meets what is required by the customer. The welding procedures, etc. These are very critical things.
And I saw somewhere in your annual report, you don't do con calls, you don't do any investor presentation, so it's very difficult to gather information. I went through the financial year 2024 annual report,
Right.
and it was written line blinds that
Right.
reduces downtime by 90%.
Right.
So what is that exactly?
So Shriram, that's the feedback which we got from other people. So we are actually going to increase. We'll start having more con calls. We'll automatically engage more with the investing public, and we realize that as a company we should be doing that. So line by good questions. So like I told you that our strategy is that we always meet the end users, and accordingly we design the products.
Okay.
So one thing in any capital goods industry, you may have met so many people. The number one problem in the industry is that people want to know how to reduce the shutdown time. If I am going as a wall seller, I am going as a pump seller, or I am going to for any purpose, even if you will go to any steel plant or power plant anywhere, wherever there is a shutdown, nobody will meet you. Right from clerk to chairman, nobody will meet you because it's the most critical time for any of the industry. How to reduce the shutdown time. So when we looked into this, when we realized, we used to think as a layman, you shut the valve and that is enough. You can start to shut down, but that is not so. In any steel plant or refinery, in any fertilizer, chemical, anywhere there is a process pipeline. To take a shutdown, you have to go through something called as a positive isolation blanking.
Positive
isolation blanking. It is a safety process as per the safety guidelines. And what is happening, and to give it very briefly, the current manual process which is going on since last 50-100 years, it takes about 4 to 5 hours to get that done.
Okay.
So during this 4 to 5 hours when you're doing that operation, your production also shut, and even your maintenance work cannot be started. So it's a complete time waste for you. So we did an R&D on this, and we developed a line blind, which we even got a patent. We got a patent granted for this from Government of India for the next 20 years. Our line blind is reducing this entire blanking time from the blanking preparation time from 4 hours to a matter of few minutes.
Okay, so it's like, let's say 2 pipes are connected.
Yes.
Okay, through this valve,
right,
which controls the flow.
Right.
And if some fluid is coming from this side and it's continuously running because the plant is going on.
It's running.
But then if they want to shut it down, they want to stop it right here.
Correct.
You're telling that it takes around 4 to 6 hours, like you just mentioned before this, before we started the shoot.
Correct.
So, and that requires a lot of manual process. And
Absolutely.
let's say something, when they're stopping it, something leaks.
Correct.
It's hazardous.
Correct.
And it takes 4 or 5 hours to completely stop.
To complete the process.
But then with your line blinds, that has applicability. It's like it reduces the time to maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, and avoids any accidents altogether.
Absolutely. So what happens is basically like you said that there's a pipe and you want to take a shutdown out here because on the downstream of this area you would like to do some welding work or some repair work, whatever.
Okay.
So right now you just close a valve and you are stretching the pipe and inserting a blank.
Oh.
This process, manual process, you recall about 3 to 4 laborers, and this whole process is going to take about 4 to 5 hours for you. Other than the fact that it is a very risky process, because what happens, let's say you're taking a shutdown after 1 year and some of the fasteners have rusted, etc. And due to sparking, there have been explosions.
Okay.
Because the gases inside can be toxic.
Yeah.
There have been even accidents in the industry. So with our line blind, with a single operator in a matter of few minutes, so you're going down from 4 hours to a few minutes, you're saving your 99% of your time. You're saving 99% labor cost, because with just one man, within a few minutes he will do the operation, which earlier were taking 3 to 4 guys who would stand there for about the entire 4 hours. Plus they would get their crane, their tools, tackles, etc. Everything is eliminated. So we are giving a 99% saving in time, 90% saving in manpower cost. Also, we are increasing safety. Now, safety is a very big aspect in today's time, because with all companies talking about ESG, because manpower safety is a very big, and it should be, rightly should be. So we initially put this product more in the steel industry, because our initial references are very strong with steel industry. They know us as a technical solution provider. So it was easier for us to get the inroads over there. We've got already about 50 installations in the industry. We supply this to Tata Steel, JSW, Kalyani Steel, JSPL. In fact, very happy to share with you that Tata Steel, which is a very innovation-friendly company, they have approved our line blind as an authorized way of blanking anywhere in Tata Steel.
Okay.
So we have an ARC also with them now for this product.
What is ARC?
An annual rate contract.
Annual rate contract.
Annual rate contract.
Okay.
Yeah. So any user anywhere in Tata Steel, like they have about 5 plants in India. So anywhere, he just has to punch out our SAP code and he can place an order on us.
Tell me one thing, these line blinds, do they give you the contract while building that capacity?
Right.
Or is it when they want to shut down, they be like, Harsh, give me your line blind, I want to fix it with this pipe?
Correct. So, so because this was a new product where a lot of education had to be done, so our first few installations were in the existing plants.
Okay.
Because people felt that, okay, chal, we can take let's try at one particular location, let's see how the performance is. But after a number of installations, now I'm very happy to share with you that Tata Steel in Kalinganagar, they've just commissioned their BF2 plant. You may have heard about it about 2 months back. They've just commissioned it.
Okay.
So in the project stage also now we've got our line lines installed. So that particular project now it has been commissioned. So the users will gain a lot of benefit from day one.
Okay.
Because in that particular section, wherever they've installed our line blind, they'll find this time saving.
Do you think nuclear, this would be a huge application in nuclear, this item could find?
It has a very good application in nuclear because nuclear, the QAP is probably the highest in the industry.
Yeah.
Because we've done some work with Nuclear Power Corporation of India in the past. We've done 3 Kudankulam and one more project we've done for them. So definitely there is an application over there. It is going to be an area for us going ahead.
So what is your biggest area? Steel?
So at the moment it is steel.
90%?
So about 80-85% right now revenues from steel.
Okay.
And also what happened is that because all the markets are big. Water is a huge market.
Yeah.
Oil and gas is also a huge market. But it just so happened traditionally that 2008-9 tak to 97 we started till about 2006-7 we were a regional player. We were supplying to small companies in Maharashtra, the OEMs, etc. Then 2009 we got connected with SAIL, Steel Authority of India. In 2008-9 to 13-14 SAIL was undergoing a very big expansion. So it just coincidentally happened that we got more involved in steel sector that way.
Okay.
So SAIL had about 5 plants that they built across, so Bhilai, Bokaro, Rourkela, Banpur and even RINL, Vizag. So these plants, we did a lot of business with them. Then 2015-16 onwards, then we started looking at private because private capex was coming up more that time.
Okay.
So JSW, Tata, we made good inroads. And also in a steel plant, what happens is, steel plant is not just steel. There is also water, there is also chemicals,
absolutely.
There is also power sector in that because every steel plant will have its in-house captive power plant. They'll have water application because they will get water from some nearby river or reservoir. So they have an intake water house pump. So coke oven is one particular application in steel sector. So coke oven, where a lot of the byproducts come out where there's ammonium sulfate, tar, those kind of applications which are similar to oil and gas, what you find in the petrochemicals. So we've worked with all these applications already. In fact, they even have steamline applications because they have an in-house power plant. So we already have credentials from steel which we can take to other sectors also. For example, power sector, water sector. It just coincidentally it happened that the capex, we were more busy in steel and now the capex which is coming up in steel is humongous. So of course, steel will be a good focus area for us, but we're also branching out into the other sectors.
So let's talk about steel for a minute.
Yeah.
I can see that from 2020, the steel capacity in India was 109 metric tons per annum. Then it grew to 144 metric tons per annum in FY24.
Yeah.
That's just recently. And I think the target is to reach 300 metric tons per annum by 2030.
Right.
So if I take from 2020 to 2024, the capacity growth has been 6% compounded basis. And from 2024, if you're going for from 144 metric tons, million metric tons per annum to 300 million metric tons per annum.
Yes.
It's growing at like maybe 11 to 12% CAGR, right? So in this period of minimal growth, the 6%, how did you manage to grow faster than the industry?
So what happens, given our smaller base, for us, so I think we should definitely be aiming for, in fact, much faster growth than we've seen right now. And going ahead, so also what happens is in this industry, capital goods industry, you may have seen some of our earlier figures that from 2014-15 till about 2020, we were growing quite slowly, and the last 3-4 years have been very rapid.
Yeah.
Because what happens in this industry, the most important thing is past track records. The biggest barrier for anybody in this industry is your past track record and your credentials.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, so JSW, like 2015, I said we started. So 15 to 20, we did maybe about 4 to 5 crore of business.
Okay.
But from 2020 to 2023, we've done 40 crore of business. So this is like how your foreign capital that initially it comes in very like a trickle, and then suddenly after 4-5 years, the floodgates will open, that kind of thing. Because what happens, people first, they want to try your valves in a few non-critical locations. They want to see your performance, and the performance comes in about 15, 18 months, and then you start getting evaluated for the larger tenders.
Okay.
So that's why the kick-in time is little longer.
So the valve is finally opening up for you.
The valve is now opening up. The valve is now fully opening up, and that's why. And fortunately for us, the capex which is coming up now is unprecedented.
Yeah.
The credentials that we have right now are also unprecedented for us to be able to cater to this requirement. The main thing is that the entry barrier is now open, and we are qualifying for all these tenders. So let's say when the steel capex is to go up to 300 million tons per annum, so we're looking at an investment of about 5 lakh crores.
In the steel industry. And
in the steel industry
2%
alone,
is coming to you.
which of which about 1.5 to 2% is going to represent the valve capex.
Valve. Not coming to you, valve industry.
To the valve industry and all.
Okay.
Of which we are hoping to be a good significant player in that.
Got you. Another thing unprecedented, since you used the word, China's real estate has been on a downturn.
Right.
I think they announced $1.4 trillion stimulus package just last week, just to prop up the economy.
Right.
But it's not really working out.
Right.
And a lot of steel that was being produced in China, like if India has a capacity of 144 million tons per annum, China has 1,200 million tons per annum, somewhere around that figure. So a lot of supplies coming to the Indian markets. Even the imports that we're seeing is unprecedented. It's not large. It's like 8 or 10 million tons per annum that is being imported exclusively from China to India. There are other countries also, like South Korea is exporting to India. Japan is there. Vietnam is there. So when these Indian steel purchasers are buying it from China, is that impacting the capex being done by the local players, which in turn impacts you? Is that happening? What do you think?
Correct. So that's definitely there, that the imports which have been coming up in the last particularly one quarter, that has definitely impacted the profitability of the steel plant produced in India, because they have to stay competitive. But I would also like to highlight here that the government has been pretty proactive, and in fact we're expecting by this month or next month a lot of protectionist measures will come in.
It's like they're saying China is selling at a loss.
Absolutely.
China is selling steel to India at a loss. They don't care because they've got so much in their hand.
Correct. But there was also another big loophole, that a lot of the steel was coming in, being pushed in through the Southeast Asia. A lot of it was coming from Vietnam. So now they've got those clauses regarding country of origin and all of those things. And because we are actively communicating with all of these steel plants, so we are sort of aware that all of these will come into play. And also the thing in capital goods, what also happens is that, like this 300 million ton expansion, let's say JSW is putting up a plant in Dolvi, for example. So it's not an overnight decision actually, because this capex, by the time it comes live, is going to be about 3 to 4 years from now.
Okay.
So there was a lot of time, and the way the infrastructure is growing in India, for one quarter, if China is dumping steel, I don't think that is going to be a very make or break decision as far as the overall capex is concerned from the steel industry point of view. So because if you see the per kg, per capita steel consumption in India, we are probably amongst the bottom.
It's like 27 kgs.
It's hardly anything compared to the developed world. And the unprecedented capex which is coming up across infra is unbelievable. So I think even with this entire 300 million ton capex, we would probably have another cycle beyond that.
Tell me one thing. You said something. I read this also. The steel per capita consumption. Like we don't eat steel, right? So how do they measure per capita consumption? It's like I'm building a house for my family, like 4 persons. And I'm using, like, let's say 40 kgs of steel. So it's like 10 kg per person. How is it measured? Do you know? Any idea?
So Sriram, I think given our population base, if you'll see, the figure is quite low. Because we're sitting at a 1.4 billion population right now. The capex, the infrastructure that is happening, I mean, you've seen that the railways announced 11 lakh crore capex. All of this is steel and cement. It is going to percolate into steel and cement, a large part of it. You look into defense, you look into any industry, you look into road, you look into ports, you look into highways, you look into airports, new airports which are coming up. So all of this is ultimately related to steel only.
Absolutely.
Now the business that we will get, for us our raw material is steel.
Okay. So you mean the per capita consumption of steel is measured, like, let's say if there's roads being built, railways being built, then
the entire steel which will be used up
is going to be divided by the number
is going to be divided by the population, if you see. if you see.
Okay.
So we still have a very long way to go actually.
Absolutely.
Because if you see the aging, let's say the airports for example, there are so many airports which are yet to be upgraded.
Absolutely.
There are so many roadways which are yet to be upgraded. There are so many in railways, as you are aware, is a huge capex. So these also throw up good opportunities for us. Now, for example, airports. So we, given in the steel industry, so HVAC is already a huge part in HVAC in steel. So we work regularly with Voltas, Blue Star. These are the clients.
You mean heat and ventilation, air
heat
conditioning?
ventilation, MEP. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we already have credentials with these guys. So now we are working with some of the other projects. So Delhi International Airport recently we supplied valves. So it also cross subsidizes us into the other industries. It takes us on a crossway into other industries also now. Okay. Which is why other than steel also we will have the focus.
I want to switch cards.
Yeah.
You recently raised some money. Some money meaning it's a pretty big amount. So you raised 18 crores earlier this year.
Yeah.
And you raised another 50, 60 crores recently.
Yeah.
So what is this two funds really used for?
Right. So we had a fundraise in Feb basically. So we did some capex in that. We've paid off most of our debt also. So we are basically net debt free now.
Okay.
And we tied up some working capital because we are seeing good incremental valves coming in. So we require some working capital also because these valves take about 5 to 6 months production time.
Okay.
So there's a good amount of working capital. It's a capital intensive business. We've tied it up. The recent fundraise that we had last month, where we raised 50 crore, is so we are looking at growth basically. We are also open to inorganic acquisitions.
Okay.
We are looking at acquisitions in valve sector, also other sectors, going into this entire capex build up. So what happens in the larger capital goods sector is the selling formula is the same.
Okay.
So let's say a Tata Steel, he's not just buying valves, he's buying pumps, he may be buying some other industrial components. So we are looking at such companies to acquire so that our universe with Tata Steel and with all these industrial customers can be much larger.
Okay.
We are looking at such acquisitions also.
Okay. Yeah. Let's say Tata Steel is buying a product from you.
Right.
And product B is closely associated with the A product.
Right.
And you have the Tata Steel credentials with you.
Right.
So you're trying to find a player that is currently manufacturing B with the money that you've raised by the manufacturer and supply the B to them, Tata Steel.
That's one of the strategies there, yeah.
Okay,
yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
Getting you. So you mentioned this earlier too, but I just want more for you to cement this point.
Yeah.
From 2013, if I take, you had like huge debt, right? You had like 20 crores of debt.
Right.
And I mean, compared to the size of the company you are, because you're doing like 20 crore revenue, you had 20 crore debt in 2013.
Right.
And now, like, log forward 10 years, 2023, let's take 2023. Yeah. You were doing like 23 crore top line, and you just had a debt of what, 5 crore or maybe net debt free.
Correct.
So very minimal. So improvement, income statement the same, balance sheet improved. Correct. So what is the reason for the stagnation between 2013 and 2023? And mind you, the thing is, what I find surprising is that it's not like this cycle was completely against you. We had, of course, some tumultuous times. For example, like 2008 to 2012 was a grim time.
Correct.
And then it picked up. Then in 2018, it went into a flutter. And then, so how did you like manage to stay stagnant?
Correct.
And how do you manage to balance these cycles also?
Correct. So Shyam, what happened is in 2012-13, so we expanded our plant in Bada. 12-13 was where, so prior to this, we were at Asangaon.
Okay.
So we are an asset base of about 1.5 crore only at the time.
Okay.
So we did a 25 crore capex during 2012-13. So our office, our factory at Bada was set up. So large part of the debt had gone towards that actually, basically. And what happened after 2014-15, there was a down cycle in the industry actually. The capex was not moving as forward. And what happened after that, during that time particularly, a lot of reckless bidding had happened from EPC contractors. If you may recall, there were so many contractors at the time like McNally, Bharat, etc., who were quite, they were very aggressive with the bidding, and there was a lot of, so we were also pretty cautious.
Okay.
We were very cautious because we had burnt fingers with particular places with some of these contractors. So we were also very cautious, and I think after around COVID actually, 2018-19 onwards, where again capex started going up, but then we again had the black swan event of COVID.
Yeah.
But after that, and by this time, our credentials had really picked up. Like I told you, the entry barrier in this industry is the credentials to make.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, you have to go through that time.
Absolutely.
Like today, any new player wants to come in. Let's say the guy next door, he wants to set up a wall company today. He can set up a plant. He can get the technologies. He can get the machinery. But for him to reach a stage where we are, he will have to go through that.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you just buy the machinery and your supplies will immediately start. You need the credentials, you need the engineering, that takes time.
No, absolutely.
So the entry barrier which we faced initially, now for us, like you said, the valve has opened. So for us now, it is going to be much faster to get that growth. So that's why the stagnation was, it was channeled in our growth strategy. That was part of our business strategy, because unfortunately the industry is just like that. In any capital goods sector, if you'll see, with all, especially the specialized goods, the curve is not always linear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how it is.
No, like if I have 2 crores, you said asset base was 2 crores.
Correct.
If I have 2 crores, I can just set up a plant.
Correct.
And it's not very sophisticated, right? You're just doing forging, fabrication, but you're saying the, what do you say, the moat, the speciality that you have is that your history with working all these large players, ArcelorMittal, as going through your annual report, Tata Steel, JSW Steel, you name it, you're working with them, in India at least.
Correct.
And so that's your track record. So you're saying that during these last 10 years, you're building that track record. Now you've gotten somewhere working with these players. You've got the ARC that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
From the largest player.
Correct.
Okay, getting it.
So yeah, I was saying we have an annual rate contract with Tata Steel, which very few companies enjoy actually. So that's a pretty significant thing that happened for us recently. And like you said, any new player getting in conventional valves, I can understand, like anybody can get in, and it's fine. It's a very competitive market anyway. But the specialized valves, the more you move up the value chain, it's not just about setting up the plant, because the engineering, the know-how, and getting your first orders in place takes time. Like for example, the line, for example, I was telling you about. So we've been working on this for about 2 years now, 15 installations in the industry. But now it may seem like a very small number of 15 installations, but now the exponential curve will be much higher.
Absolutely.
Because now once you have the credentials in place, because these products, nobody will just buy. People say that, we want to support small industry, but in such a critical industry, nobody wants to support a small industry. People want a trusted partner.
Did you find, were they importing from China these valves?
So luckily in the valve space, there's not much competition from China. There are few plants who would buy, let's say, an entire plant from China, for example. Like let's say somebody's setting up a chemical plant, they get an entire turnkey plant from China.
Oh God.
That happens. But they're also, like you may recall, in the early 2010s, there were a lot of these Chinese power plants which had come up. They were competing with BHL, and they used to set up these power plants. So Dongfang and all of these companies. So all of those valves had failed. So we've got a lot of China replacement business actually. We supplied a lot of valves to SR Steel, I can tell you, for example, where they had bought a lot of valves from China and they didn't perform to the specifications, and then they ultimately purchased from India then. So we've supplied over there. In the valve industry, we're not very scared of China. We don't see much competition from Chinese valves players particularly.
Understood. So now what is your future plan? Meaning, how do you plan to grow in the future? I understand inorganic growth. Anything else you want to add that?
So basically, as far as the valves business is concerned, so the steel will definitely be a focus, because the 5 lakh crore expansion that is coming up till 2010. So by the end, till 2030, by the end of the decade, this is representing a huge asset base for us. To be able to cater to this segment, what we're doing, we're also investing in ourselves. When I say that, I'm saying we're investing to improve our process efficiency. So right now, let's say our design, everything is manual. We're trying to see what we can do in design automation. That's a project that we've taken on right now. So this capital also helps us to invest in that kind of growth. To be able to cater to these kind of wall requirements, which has come exponentially, we should be able to cater to them in a timely manner. Because we have to supply also in a timely manner. So we've done capex, like I told you, at our plant. Now, other than steel, we are also looking at a few other sectors. So fertilizers, HVAC, water, and oil and gas.
Like
these sectors we are getting into.
Let's say we recently launched a interview with a company that KR in heat exchangers. We recently came up with an IPO. So we met him, visit the factory as well, like lovely factory. And so they are into HVAC, heat and ventilation, air conditioning. Right. So that goes into the like ACs and these buses and aircrafts. They don't do for aircrafts yet, but so you're saying you're going to supply those valves for for a plant that manufactures this HVAC. Is that right? Yeah.
So these HVAC contractors. So Voltas, for example, there's Voltas, Blue Star. These are already our contractors. So
used in their ACs or used in the manufacturing of those ACs?
Not in the ACs particularly. So the entire HVAC pipelines. So let's say, this building, for example. So they have the firefighting system. They have a ventilation system. So there are valves in those pipelines.
So in this product,
in the entire project, the HVAC project. So for example, I can tell you, Sterling Wilson is one of them. So we've supplied valves to Sierra Leone. We had exported to Sierra Leone for some of their hotel projects.
Okay.
Now, Delhi Airport, I was saying, for example, Delhi International Airport.
They're into
So fuel
solar
line.
EPCs, right?
They are also into solar EPCs, but they're also into HVAC projects.
Okay.
HVAC and water projects also they do.
Sorry, you're saying Delhi Airports, yeah.
So Delhi International Airport Limited, we supplied valves through L&T. So so what happens is ultimately the application is either it's chilled water, it's thermic fluid, oil, etc. So these applications we have already done.
Okay.
It's just that we've done it in the steel sector and now we are capitalizing in the other sectors.
Okay.
But these credentials that we built up over 10 years makes us to reach over there. We don't have an entry barrier to go over here anymore. That way.
So my perception before coming into this room was that you're into, let's say, a steel manufacturing unit, steel manufacturing machine. Yeah. You supply valves
for the steel plants.
For those steel plants.
Yeah.
But you're into the projects as well.
Yes.
HVAC projects.
Yes. We'll supply valves to HVAC contractors. Okay. HVAC is one segment.
Okay.
Thermal power plants also now we'll start looking at. So BHL is already a customer. We supply some import substitute items to them at the moment. We'll increase our participation with them. We are also looking at fertilizers now because that is also another sector which is very good.
Can I ask you a very basic question?
Yeah.
Like valves is there in sanitary fittings? Am I wrong? Sanitary where there are valves, right? Some very commodity type valves.
So that's one segment of the valves industry. That's a commercial segment. We're not into that, but that also is a big segment.
Like just for audience information, how much would be the operating margins over there? Rough approximate figure compared to the margins that you are commanding.
So those guys would be doing it about 4-5% single digit kind of a margin.
Yeah.
So it's a large volume and low valuation, very
operating
low valuation, low valuation kind of a margin. But we're enjoying pretty healthy margins.
How much are the margins? I forgot.
So we did last year. We've done EBITDA. Last quarter we've done EBITDA around 31%. 31% EBITDA margins. Yeah. And we are expecting similar outlook to continue. Because we have a mix. We're doing conventional valves as well as our customized valves. We have our line blind also. So the blended margins are quite healthy.
Because you've innovated the new product and you're getting like more specialized orders, margins would increase, or would it stay the same because you've got competition on the other side?
I think it should be along the same lines. Yeah. It should stay along the same lines.
Then like line blinds, how much are the margins like the delta? How much is the delta? How much is the increase?
It's a good, we have a good margin, pretty healthy margin. And I think once in the next 1 to 2 years, once that volume really kicks in, we'll have very, very healthy bottom line. Because what happens there is that there we are not selling a product, we are selling a solution.
Okay.
In fact, I can just tell you, for example, one of our customers in one of the steel plants, we have a feedback from them. By investing 5 lakhs on a single line blind, they have saved 25 lakhs in a single shutdown. So when you see the ROI, they're not going to haggle with us ke nahi yaar 5 lakh nahi mere ko ab 3 lakh mein de do, 4 lakh mein de do. So it's more about the education of the product, and there's no competition. It's a patented product, like I told you. So it's also good for the company to work with such products actually. And what happens is once you go with the line blind, your other products automatically come in.
Yeah, makes sense.
Automatically come in. So we have a lot of technical edge as far as that is concerned.
It's become like an entry product and a product that you can upsell to the existing clients.
Absolutely.
Like
it gives us a lot of audience with higher level executives in the companies.
Okay.
What happens is valves, when let's say it's about very small capex of the overall, very small percentage of the overall capex. If you go with like a new product, with this kind of a product, to meet executive directors, to meet chairmen of companies, it's, as you can understand, it becomes very doors open for you.
It's unique, right?
It's unique. It's pretty
because you've got like other 10 vendors at your doorstep.
Absolutely.
Supplying the other products.
Absolutely.
Then like this line blind or the other unique products.
Absolutely.
You're the only one, so you
Absolutely. It's a very unique product in that sense.
Yeah. Excellent. So anything you'd like to share besides this?
Well, we are optimistic. We are optimistic about the future because I think the next 10 years that are there with this whole Viksit Bharat movement, and you see it on the ground. It's not just talk. Because so we are MSME, so we have seen how the government of the last 3-4 years, how they've made sure that all the large companies are getting enrolled on trades, that's receivables discounting platform of the government.
Okay.
So the government is also doing a lot of things for the MSMEs. So we have a lot of comfort now. So I think next 10 years are excellent because the capex that is coming is unprecedented, and we are preparing ourselves to participate in that to the maximum extent that we can.
Who are you supplying to Russia?
So we are supplying to NLMK Steel, is one of our customers in Russia.
Okay.
So we supplied these customized steel plant valves and good margins because there we are competing with the European manufacturers.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
So how do you send it by ship?
It was sent by ship.
Can't go by road.
By ship.
All right. I mean, that's all. Thank you so much for having us. And
Thanks, Shriyam. This was great to discuss with you.
Excellent. Thank you. All the best.
Thanks.